Welcome to 3 Things I've Learned with your host, Susan Dolci, where we share the stories that shift our souls. In the next hour, we will dive deep into the soul-shifting magic of stories. Stories of radical transformations, courageous breakthroughs, and life lessons. We're all students in this soul school called life. We don't need to do this alone. Why not share our notes? 3 Things I've Learned starts now. Hey everybody, welcome to 3 Things I've Learned with me, Susan Dolci, where we share the stories that shift our souls. And it's always fun to have y'all here every first and third Tuesday of the month. And boy, do I have a lot to talk about with my special guest today. If it were possible, and the reason it's not possible is because I'm going to be shifting the focus of my show, but I digress. If it were possible, I would have her on 3 times just to cover, and that probably still wouldn't be enough to cover all of the information that is locked in this woman's brain. She's amazing. So let me just ask you listeners a question. I think there are a lot of people, especially since the pandemic and lockdowns and so much stress and so much uncertainty, like who is just sick and tired of being sick and tired? So many people spend countless hours chasing doctors, trying to find the answers to combat the pain, the fatigue, the joint stiffness. I got it in my hands. I used to, but I've taken some advice from Cheryl, so we'll get there. Joint stiffness, and usually, and in conventional medicine, most people are offered is a pill, right? And most of the time, or half the time, or none of the time, that pill may or may not help you. So my question for you today is, have you ever considered that maybe it's your food or the toxins in your food or the toxins in your environment that might actually be the source of your health issues? My guest today has literally written the Bible. I'm going to hold it up because it's like big. It's literally written the Bible on how to identify and eliminate toxins from your body and your environment. Cheryl Meyer, also known as Cheryl M. Health Muse, has a BA from UC Berkeley and is a certified health coach from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. She's an award-winning international best-selling author, speaker, local TV and podcast host. She's won a total of 17, and I think the count just recently went up to 17 awards for her first book, which is the book we're going to be talking about today, which is entitled It Feels Good to Feel Good. Learn to eliminate toxins, reduce inflammation, and feel great again. And her second book has now won 6 awards, and that book is called Feeling Good, Living Low Toxin. Welcome, Cheryl. I'm so excited to have you here. If you can't tell,
I'm really
so excited.
I love to share this information because I want to help people. That's why I went back to school at 67 and now I'm 72.
Well, and one of the things that fascinates me, and you talk about this in the very, very beginning of the book, and I have so many questions, but I want to put this into perspective for people, how passionate you are about this mission, because like you say in the beginning, all of this information existed out on the ether webs out there on the internet. And you spent, I don't know how many years or how long it took you to consolidate, 5 years to consolidate all of this information, because not only do you talk about toxins in our food, toxins in the environment, chemicals in our cleaning products, chemicals in like furniture, rugs, like, I mean, it's endless. So this is really like, if any of you are really suffering from inflammation, autoimmune, allergies, food sensitivities, I highly recommend you get this book, because you are so thorough. You are so thorough. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about your story, because obviously you went through a huge transformation.
Tremendous. I was a business owner, but I was a business owner who was working 24/7. And the universe was trying to tell me my toxic load was building up. I just wasn't paying attention to it. It went past me so quick that I never
Mhm.
even stopped to think, what was that random rash? Why was mascara either making my eyes water or making my eyes burn? Same thing with my deodorant. I was either blistering or I was getting rashes. I had so many things going wrong with my body, but I just pushed through because I loved what I was doing and I didn't
Mhm.
have time to be sick. And one morning I woke up and my lips and my tongue and my eyes were almost swollen shut. And you would have thought that would have been the 2x4, but it wasn't. I figured out that that was probably the laundry sheets in my dryer because
Mhm.
I had been getting rashes from them and a girlfriend had come to stay and she did me a favor and did my laundry. So from deduction, we figured that out. And I wish I'd paid attention there because 3 weeks later, I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed because everything hurt. So
Mhm.
now I was girl interrupted. I had no choice but to pay attention. So I went to my conventional doctor and I went again and I went again. And she ran 4 rounds of tests. And then she called me and she said, well, you say you hurt. So I'm going to give you steroids, but really there's nothing wrong with you. And what I want you to do is go get mental therapy. And I said to her, you're wrong. I know my body. You're not in my body. And I'm going to find out what's wrong. So I'm going to research. And if you're lucky, I'll come back and tell you. But I know something has gone wrong in my body. And
Mhm.
I had no clue what I was looking for. And that's where I think I had an angel's hand in my back because I tripped into the functional community. And at the time, they were running 19 different symposiums with multiple doctors, all of whom had gotten sick. So they had gone for the additional certification of functional medicine to help themselves.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
was fascinated with that.
Yeah. Can we pause for a minute and talk about that? I mean, I wanted to talk about functional MDs because I'm definitely in the market for one, and I want to talk about how you can tell us how we can find one. But I didn't know that. That is fascinating. That these
Story.
conventional doctors were not being served by their own colleagues or by their own training, and so
And
now
there's
they're.
reasons for that. When you dig in, pharmaceutical companies run the medical schools. So they get nothing about natural health at all. They get almost nothing about food. If they're lucky, they get 4 hours. So they didn't have any background to help themselves. They own their number one resource after graduating from medical school is their pharmaceutical rep. So they give you the average appointment is 7 minutes, and down the chute comes the pill, and then you're out the door. I used to walk away going, I didn't tell her this, and this, because
Mhm.
there was no time to tell them that. At any rate, all of these functional doctors, and I want to explain what a functional doctor is because that would help. They are conventional. My doctor went to Yale, but she too got sick and went on for functional medicine training. And functional medicine looks at the entire body, whereas conventional medicine looks at one body symptom and finds the drug that at least will mask the symptom.
Mhm.
But most of those drugs cause additional complications.
Mhm.
Not all of them, but most of them. Whereas a functional doctor, they will try the holistic approach first. And if that doesn't work, they can still prescribe the pill. So it's like night and day. I didn't get to a functional doctor until 3 years down the road, but just learning from all these people was fascinating. I didn't know how to find one,
Yeah.
or they didn't take insurance, and mine does. And I
Oh.
called 50 different functional doctors 3 years later until I found the one that did.
So, I mean, I believe obviously in the last 3 years, I mean, because I live in a fairly small town, I know that there are several to choose from. So I imagine that this kind of medicine has really exploded recently.
I'd like to think that it's the future, but
Mhm.
there's not as much money in it for big farm and
Mm.
big food and big
Mhm.
agriculture. And so you sort of have to trip into it. And it's like night and day. There was not one test my conventional doctor ran that my functional doctor ran. Little things. Thyroid was only checked from here to here. Functional doctor checked it from here to my adrenals. That's where I was broken.
Mm.
We ran allergy tests. Only thing I was allergic to was the tape that held it on my back. functional doctor ran a
You know?
sensitivity test.
Yeah.
And I had 18 food sensitivities. And by eliminating them, I took my first giant leap away from pain.
So
So,
I wanted, can I interrupt you again too there? Like, I have so many questions. I apologize if but I'm just like, I could be like grilling you with questions. That's what I'm going to be doing. That's why you're here. Um, but so what is the difference? How is a sensitivity test different from an allergy test?
if you have an allergy, it's like peanuts. You eat it, shabing, jabang, you get apoplectic. I think I probably mispronounced that, but you could die.
Hmm.
Sensitivity is totally different. And most conventional doctors don't even believe in them, but it starts up a slow burn. And what is
Okay.
inflammation? It's a slow burn.
Hmm.
And it all starts because you don't digest your food correctly. And so it's in too big of particles. It starts ramming up against the lining of your gut, and then it rips a hole and it goes into your blood. And your
Hmm.
body does what it's supposed to do. It screams foreigner, and then it wants to attack what that particle is, which is just food. And a lot of times they are the sensitivities. That's why they didn't get digested properly. So when they go into your blood, your body does something. I'd become a biochemist if I were younger. Your body does something really interesting. That food particle then mimics where you're weak in your body. For me, it was my bones and my muscles. Somebody else, it could be their thyroid and become Hashimoto's. Somebody else, it could be their brain and become Parkinson's. Somebody else, it could be their lower abdomen and become IBS. But wherever you're weak is where your body attacks you. And it gets worse. If you don't respond, you get multiple things going wrong because it starts attacking additional body tissue. So you need to react if you've got an autoimmune disease because there is something called multiple autoimmune syndrome and you
Hmm.
don't want to go there. I was lucky, I attacked it early, and I don't even have a named autoimmune disease. There's 140 named autoimmune diseases. Mine is called undefined. I joke that I'm a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, and a little bit from column C. But a functional doctor doesn't care what it's caused because they want to go to the root cause and cure what's not functioning with your entire body.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the difference. And I think they must also be passionate and a part of this mission that they want to heal the person, not just treat the symptom.
Right. That's why they went into medicine in the first place. So
Right.
they are getting much more job satisfaction.
Yeah.
And I don't think conventional, my doctor is married to a conventional doctor. And she said, when they go to cocktail parties, he can't understand why people come up to her and say, you saved my life. He said, I don't think I've had anybody ever say that to me, but he's still a conventional doctor. I said, I'd be happy to tell him why. I'd be happy to tell him the difference.
We're coming up on a break, but if you could quickly share how somebody can find a functional medicine doctor.
Really easy. You go to IFM for Institute of Functional
Mhm.
Medicine.org. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you put in your zip code and it will bring up everyone who's functionally trained in your area within a certain radius of miles. And it includes nurse practitioners, medical doctors, NDs, naturopaths, and other forms of healthcare professionals. A lot of people are getting trained in functional medicine because it gives them a whole new life to help patients.
Yeah, so I highly recommend if you're in the market for a new doctor like I am, because I'm still kind of new to this town, and now since pandemic, luck, I can finally go find a doctor. So I'm definitely going to take advantage of that. I think there's a group in my town that they actually, I believe they're almost all women, but they also have estheticians at the at their
Right.
clinic. So they're
I've
working on skin
all
and the
kinds
whole,
of
yeah,
people doing this now.
yeah. So yeah, I'm very excited to
And there's now even a health coach school. It wasn't when I went to health coach school, it wasn't there. But if I were young, I'd go back to become a functional health coach, although
yeah.
I practice a form of functional from all of my research.
And we're going to talk more about that when we come back. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Three Things I've Learned. I'm Susan Dolci, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to Three Things I've Learned. I'm Susan Dolci, and today I am so excited. If you listen to the first segment, you know I can't keep my mouth shut because I'm interviewing Cheryl Meyer. She's a health coach. She's written the book, It Feels Good to Feel Good. That book has won 17 awards, and she is the queen of um, eliminating toxins in your food and in your environment. And so it's really important, like you said, that you're passionate about this. I'm super passionate about this. Where can people find you?
Um, it, Cheryl M. Health Muse is the core word, and Cheryl is with a C, Health M, Cheryl M, that's my last name, Health Muse, M-U-S-E, because I want to inspire everybody to change and to clean up. Because I even think this is what's wrong with our healthcare system. If we would clean up all these toxins, and they come from big food, they come from big farm, and they come from big agriculture, we wouldn't be so sick and we wouldn't be breaking the bank. But because we seem to not want to own it, I
Mhm.
didn't want to own it. I thought the doctor was going to solve all my issues. I was looking for the magic pill just like everybody else. And there is no magic pill. I talked to somebody with heart disease the other day, and he said, people keep asking him that. And he said, the magic pill is you. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to clean up. He's 42. He's got a brand new baby. He has a big why to live. So he cleaned up everything, and his heart is doing so much better. So you'd be, if you own your body and you clean up all these toxins, and if you stop eating processed fast food and start to pay attention to what you put in your mouth, and you eat all the colors of the rainbow and you eat them organic, your body, it starts to celebrate.
Yeah.
You won't believe how much better you feel. So that's where you start, but there's toxins everywhere. I was appalled.
One of the things I want to highlight quickly after you mentioned your website is if you go to her author tab and you scroll down to freebies, she's got all sorts of guides, like so many different guides and information if you're looking for, you know, uh, different names of sugar or just different, trust me, just go and so many freebies and videos. So I want to talk about, we were talking about, or you were talking about, hidden things. My husband used to be in the food industry in the Wayback Machine. And so I know intimately how the food industry will layer salt, fat, and sugar to create this tongue feel and this addictive quality to foods. And I knew that. And I was still feeding my kids the food because I didn't fully understand what I was doing to, like what it meant to feed that to my kids or just to eat it myself. And over the years, as I've come to understand, because we've eaten pretty clean for a long time now, and as I was just sharing when we were in the break, I'm on a program where I've now eliminated dairy and gluten and all dietary sugar at the moment and all processed sugar, and it's been a real interest. I hate the word interesting. It's been a fascinating journey, but I want to talk about like how you learned about all of these hidden poisons, not just sugar, but all of the stuff that are like all of the Monsanto scary stuff that they put in the crops. I mean,
Well, you research, but let me make it easy. If you learn to read labels, do not buy anything without reading the label. If you don't know what that word is or you can't pronounce it, you put it back on the shelf. That's the easy way to cover it. MSG, which we all know is bad for us, is now hidden under 39 names in processed food. So that's hidden under something called natural flavors. I don't know what natural flavors are. It's MSG most often. So if you don't know what it is, you just don't eat it, because if you don't know what it is, your body doesn't know what it is either, and it can't use it. And I want you to start to eat for health. Don't just eat for food, for taste, for whatever it is they're giving you. All those synthetic ingredients are doing your body harm. And like sugar, they light up the portion of your brain that cocaine and heroin light up, so
mhm.
that you get a high and then you drop and you have to have more. And then you get a high and then you drop and you have to have more. And beyond that, they all turn, I didn't even know these existed. You have two little hormones in the back of your neck that control hunger, and they're called ghrelin and lectin.
Hmm.
And they stop working because of all these chemicals. The sugar and the synthetic chemicals turn them off. So I would eat a Thanksgiving dinner and be looking for food in the kitchen, go, how could I be hungry? I just ate a huge meal. Well, I wasn't hungry. I just didn't have a stop button because obesity is big business and they don't want you to stop. So I would open up a bag of cookies and before I knew it, I'd ate the whole thing. I wasn't hungry. I didn't know why I was eating them. I just kept going back for more. And once you get away from all those chemicals, you get back food freedom and you
Hmm.
don't want it anymore. And sugar starts to smell god awful to you. I can't even go down the aisles with all the sugary products at the grocery store. It makes me crazy now.
Yeah, it
So
kind of makes my teeth hurt, even though I'm not tasting it. Because you could just imagine how sugary sweet it is. So like I said, I've been off sugar for 10 weeks, 9 weeks, and I had 3 blueberries, and I was like, oh my God, those like they were like little sugar bombs. And my husband said to me, those aren't even the good blueberries. Like those are not the sweet ones. And I was like, well, they're sweet to me. And it's like
you also
recalibrate,
taste buds back when you detox
right?
all of those things. So blueberries and strawberries start to taste unbelievably good, but they didn't before because it was all masked
Yeah.
by the other crud we were eating.
And another thing you talk about too is once you, or you start, you mentioned this in the very, very beginning, once your body is nourished properly, like so many people want to lose weight, release weight, whatever phrase, works for you. But once you actually have nourishment and your nutritional hunger and your thirst hunger and all of the other hungers we have are satisfied, the weight just, because your body doesn't want to hold on to it.
Pounds without dieting. I just eat real food.
Yeah.
And that
Wow.
I always thought I had a problem with willpower. Guess what? It wasn't willpower at all. And I read way early in the game that if you were eating all that crud, you were starving your body. I'm heavy. How could that possibly be? Well, I wasn't giving my body any nutrition, so it was holding on to every single little morsel that it had. It didn't
Mhm.
want to give any of it up. And so once you balance out and you never count calories because you eat real food and you count chemicals, that's what you want to get rid of. And then the body has to first come into balance and then it drops the weight.
So can we segue from this to a little bit, which I wasn't even going to talk about, but is how the diet industry is set up to make you fail. Like I mean, it's first of all, they're all funded by like diet studies are funded by, big corporations who want you to like the whole, I'm so excited. I've got to gather my thoughts. So it's like, when, uh, I think it was Coke, like the powers that be were saying that sugar was the cause of obesity. And they took the focus off of sugar and said, no, it's fat.
Right.
And so that, yeah.
Got all
And
those those low fat products that made us fatter.
right. So I would love some insight on that because you are, like I said, a wealth of knowledge of how.
We've been deceived in so many ways. Big food, in this case, the pop industry, and that stuff is pure gut rot. If you're still drinking Coke or Pepsi, whether it's sugarless or with sugar, it's terrible for your body. So get rid of it. That's the first thing that should go. But they actually funded studies from people like Harvard that proved that it wasn't sugar making us fat at all. And the studies are incomplete, but you don't know that. They didn't run long enough to come to the real conclusion that they would have come to. So, and because all the universities get huge money from these companies, they do the studies because they want the money. And people who do real research would come back and be wiped out. Their staff would be gone, their offices would be gone, because if it wasn't going to make the university money, they didn't want them there.
Hmm.
That's been true with the genetically modified foods. That's been good with all the Roundup research. So much of it, people who were doing real research never had it come to light. And I have a whole section in my book where I fully expected to be attacked, although I don't think I'm big enough for them to go after me. I did get some nasty reviews, probably from shills from the companies, because they don't want this information out. It's such big business, they don't want you to know the truth.
Hmm.
So do your own research, dig in, start with my book. One of the best things about my book is it has a resource section at the back of all the people that I now follow. So if you want information, look those people up and ask what they think about the subject, because you'll get a completely clean, totally different point of view than if it's somebody who's being paid off big money from one of the big companies.
And also, don't you offer, isn't there a workbook to,
Yes,
if
if
you're,
you buy my first book, write to me, same core word, Cheryl on Health Views, only at gmail.com. I'll send you a workbook, because in the beginning, people were going, I can't do this. It's overwhelming. Well, it took me 5 years. So the workbook, as you're reading my book, I tell you where to research, what I found, and what I replaced it with. Write down what's toxic in your life. You've been using it all these years. You're not going to get rid of it all at once. Write it down and write down what you want to replace it with when you run out of it. That way you won't break the back book. You put those sheets into a binder, and when you run out, it's right at your fingertips. So now you know what to buy, because everything that you lower the toxicity of is one step closer to health.
yeah, yeah, and you definitely provide a lot of resources, like, to products that you've tested, and websites to go. Like, I went to, I checked out the sunscreen website. We need to take another break, but I checked out the sunscreen website because I love my sunscreen, my face sunscreen, because it blocks like everything. My face, my body will get tan, my face gets nothing. And it wasn't there, which was surprising to me, but it was really eye-opening, the ratings and the different sunscreens. So summer's coming, people,
You can look it up by each ingredient. And if something's toxic, then you look for something else. Hawaii is actually considering banning all suntan lotions because it's killing all the sea life around the beaches. They are that
wow.
toxic. So
Wow.
on my face, I use I'm going to go blank on what it is. It's so low. She had skin cancer, and they just, oh, Keys. It's called Keys, and they were both big execs in Silicon Valley, and because she couldn't use anything after having skin cancer,
Hmm.
they stopped. They researched. They created incredibly low toxic products for both humans and for pets, because they have dogs that they love. So any dog that has any kind of a skin issue, they've got fantastic products for it.
Yeah. And kids, which when we come back, I definitely want to talk about childhood obesity and how do we foster this kind, healthy eating with our children. I'm Susan Dolci. You're listening to Three Things I've Learned, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. And today I am talking with Cheryl Meyer, also known, her website is CherylMHealthMuse.com. She is a wealth of knowledge on how to eliminate toxins and sugars and poisons from your diet and from your environment. She has two books, but the book we're talking about today is It Feels Good to Feel Good, Learn to Eliminate Toxins, Reverse Inflammation, and Feel Great Again. Before we went into break, we were talking about the diet industry and hidden sugars and all that. But I want to talk about, we were talking about sunscreens. I want to talk about kids and childhood obesity rates, and how we can, if we're a mom and we've got young kids and we're just beginning to understand, like, the macaroni and cheese was basically feeding my kids poison. um and, like, not even really thinking about artificial colors. And when you start to become aware of these things, um how how do you introduce this to your family?
Well, number one, let me give you this statistic. 54% of our children in the United States have a chronic illness. I find that completely frightening. So this is super important for any mother listening to this. My second book actually has a whole section on how to raise healthy children in the 21st century, because I'm very passionate that we've got to change, because for the first time, our kids are not going to live as long as we are.
Oh
And
my
that's
God, that's a horrifying statistic. That's just
so
horrifying.
as I didn't have children, but I've talked to a whole lot of mothers so I could write my part of the book because I'm passionate about it. And it turns up, number one, you have to cook. There was just an article that came out that the House studied baby foods, and all of them, whether it was beechnut or Gerber's or Hain, all of them were loaded with heavy toxic metals. You have to make your food starting at infant and going all the way up. You don't want soy. 95% of soy, even in formulas, is genetically modified,
Mhm.
which means it has Bt toxin in it, or it was sprayed with massive amounts of glyphosate, which is Roundup, which we know now causes cancer. So you have to make your own food. It doesn't have to take that long. Buy a baby bullet or a really powerful blender. I use my blender all the time. I couldn't live without it. And make your own food. You steam vegetables and put them in there, and shebang, shebang, you've got baby food, only it's loaded with nutrition. The second thing is children, as my husband keeps saying, because it's my second marriage and he's got kids and grandkids, he said, children are little pictures. Whatever they see you do is what they will mimic. So if you cook for your family and you involve them in the decision making of the food, and if you sit around the dinner table at night and share your day and share eating real food together, and they see you eating healthy, and they hear you talking about why they're eating what they're eating, then they will start to mimic that with their friends. I've actually had children say to grandma, Grandma, we don't eat that at home because we eat healthy. And I just heard a
I love
story
that.
of a kid who said to the school cafeteria woman, this is grade D chicken. It's loaded with all kinds of chemicals and I'm not eating it. If I wrote a paper that got a D, you wouldn't want me to get an A for it. So why should I eat this? Because he hears his parents talking about how important food quality is and food quality matters. I also strongly believe you have to take your kids and show them where their food comes from. And I started researching that because an article came out in the Washington Times that 7 million people think chocolate milk comes from chocolate cows. And at first I thought that's ridiculous. And then
That's ridiculous.
far away from the farm, they have no idea where their food comes from. So build little farms in your backyard or on your patio. I used to go with my mother to pick strawberries in the summer, and then we would wash them and freeze them so we'd have them all year round. Take them to the farm. We went to Amish farms. I was a little kid in Pennsylvania. They need to see where their food comes and take them to the farmers market. I'm lucky I'm in California. We have them year round, but even if you don't, in the summer, take your kids, get to know the farmer, find out from him how he's growing his crops without chemicals. Let your kids ask the questions and then find out where the farms are and take the kids. All of that becomes critical. Now, I've heard where kids suddenly will eat something and come home and confess to their parents that they ate something that another friend gave them. And you don't get twisty because they do that. You just explain, they probably didn't feel very good when they ate it. So you explain why that is. And then they probably are not going to do it again. Teach your kids how to read labels. Even
Mm,
before they read, I understand kids will take their finger along the label and pretend they're reading it.
that's
So
awesome.
what you put into the children is what they will do for you, and start before birth. Our babies are now being born with 290 chemicals right in the umbilical cord. So they're starting off with toxic load the minute they pop out. And believe it or not, it comes from the father and the mother. So
I
a
believe it.
year before you decide you want to conceive or get pregnant, clean up your diet, clean up your environment. That'll give your child a running start because it's about toxic load. So you don't want them to start off with toxic load from the very beginning. That's why so many kids have allergies today.
Mm. So yeah, can we also talk about how you can still buy organic food on a budget? Like I know
Um,
a lot of people say I can't afford organic food, it's too expensive, and so I might eat healthy food, but there really truly is a big difference between buying the
yes
regular
and
stuff and the organic
no.
stuff.
My second book has a chapter, 30 ways to save on healthy food. So if you want the whole list, that's where you go for it. Start by looking at your budget. Are you stopping every morning on your way for coffee?
Mm,
Because start to save that money to put towards organic food. Because number one, coffee is a dirty crop. So you want to be making organic coffee at home and taking it with you. And these are wonderful stainless containers that keep it hot for hours. So make your own coffee and take it with you. So that's the beginning. Second is EWG.org, which is the Environmental Working Group, puts out a list called the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 every year. The dirty dozen are the vegetables and fruits that are so dirty, they can have as many as 63 chemicals on them. And you don't want to, those are the worst of the worst. So if you have a limited budget, that's where you spend your organic money because you don't want those chemicals in your body. And then there's a 15 on the other side, which is broccoli and a lot of things that are super healthy for you. Those, it doesn't matter if you buy organics. So start to make those decisions, but also look at your budget because I now eat as much as I can organic because I don't want the chemicals because I feel good and I'm not giving that up. And that's
Yeah.
what it comes down to. Meat, you want meat that eats his own specific diet. And that is definitely more expensive, but you don't need huge slabs of steak. So I never eat more meat than what the size of the palm of my hand is. You make up for the difference in price by eating less, and then 75% of my plate are vegetables. And so, is it more expensive? Yes, but do you want the medical bills down the way?
Mm-hmm.
Because, as one guy said, you think organic's too expensive? Have you priced out cancer lately?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No
you want
kidding.
to do it up front because it'll pay off at the back end.
Yeah. And now they don't they I know my daughter's friend has we used to get a farm share when we were living in Ohio because it was so convenient. Now that I'm in Michigan, I haven't sought one. I also have a great farmers market nearby. But they have like farm share boxes of like ugly food. Or what's that? Is that what it's
It's
called?
actually a company that delivers called Imperfect Produce.
That's what it's called.
I get a box from them every week, and you get to choose, and you get to choose whether you want it organic. And they might have, little hiccups in terms of how they look, but they're just perfectly fine to eat. And they're brand fresh, and they're from your local market. And their sister company is Misfit Foods. And if they're in your state, they will deliver. Misfit will deliver anywhere. Imperfect Produce only delivers to big cities, I think. But it's worth it to look into it because you save a lot of money and it saves food waste, which is something that we need to do to be green for climate change.
And the other thing that I learned when I was on farm share was I learned to eat seasonally. And
Because
that was one of the most because I cook a lot. We're big foodies, but that was a big eye-opening thing for me was to understand, and to cook and eat what was fresh and in season. And come to realize that, just because it's in my grocery store, it doesn't mean it's in season in my climate or where I live or yeah.
and it's supply and demand. If you're
Yeah.
buying in season, it's in abundance, so it's at the cheapest possible price. It's probably from a farm close to you, so it's on your table faster, so it's loaded with more nutrition. And eat all the colors close together. Together, they have a party in your body and create health. So you need all 7 of the colors, and the hardest one to get is the greens that come from the sea. But if you eat any sushi, that nori
Mhm,
that
mhm.
wraps it, it's got 57 minerals in it. It's a complete food and it's super good for you.
Yeah, I love the sushi. Not so fond of the nori snacks because they're just a little too salty for me. But yeah, yeah, I just recently learned that too, that nori is like so
Loaded,
good for you. Yeah.
loaded goodness.
So we're coming up, we're on another break. We're not coming up, we're on another break. But when we come back, um, for me, I feel like I'm saving the best for last, and that is um, how our toxic thoughts impact our health and our ability to release weight and our ability just for our personal happiness, right? You're listening to Three Things I've Learned. I'm Susan Dolci. I am talking with Cheryl M. Health Muse today, and we will be right back. Okay, we are back. We have 15-ish more precious moments with maybe 10 precious moments left with Cheryl Meyer, also CherylMHealthMuse.com. If you head on over to her website, you go into her author tab, she has a ton of free information. She has 2 amazing books. on how to heal our bodies from inflammation and how to eliminate toxins in our life. And the last thing that I want, well, like I said, I could talk to you 3 more times uh, to get all my to suck all the information out of you. But I want to talk about toxic thoughts because one of the things I just learned is that one reason we might have trouble losing weight is when we are in situations of uncertainty or scarcity or just like the pandemic, our bodies are going to hold on to whatever weight we have because our DNA says, "Oh, we might need this," and there's nothing you can do about it. There's you can so accept thoughts and being calm and learning to breathe and incorporating all that. So what can you tell us about toxic thoughts?
Well, there's a section of my book on toxic stress, toxic anxiety, toxic relationships, toxic lack of movement, and toxic lack of sleep. And if I was rewriting the book, I would also do we don't breathe correctly. So
Mhm.
if we're not breathing right, that's also toxic. And I'll refer you to a great book that just came out called Breathe, where he goes all the way back through all the history and talks about all the things we've forgotten about breathing and why it's so important to breathe. Why are all those things they're causing havoc on every organ in your body. And
Mhm.
they too stop your gut from doing proper digestion. And they are all creating leaky gut. So it's at the root cause of all of our illness. I had so little cortisol left in my body when I finally got to the doctor, to the functional doctor. I was almost to Addison's disease because I had so much stress. And I thought stress was good for me. I thought it made me get more done. Well, it slows you down. When you start, and I've learned to do a series of exercises that release it during the day, but toxic lack of movement also never releases the stress and the anxiety. And if you're in a toxic relationship, you either have to fix it or you have to cut bait, because that also, I was in a toxic relationship. He woke up and said he didn't like it. I was sick, but it was an angel's hand on my back that forced me to go find my soulmate who wanted to go on a get well journey with me. So don't be afraid of that, because I've never been happier. My whole life is better since I got sick. I know that sounds bizarre, but you start to do this. You feel happy, your happy hormones work, your serotonin and all those things work. They calm down the toxic anxiety. My mother had terrible anxiety. Ends up, I had a chemical imbalance. And so
Mhm.
I took a supplement from Metagenics for a year that got me back in balance. And I'm not a worrywart anymore. But I'm also happy because all my happy hormones are working, my dopamine, my serotonin, my GABA. All of those are working because I stopped eating the things that the sugar and the synthetic chemicals and processed food that were turning them off.
Mhm.
So when you start to eat well, it impacts your happiness, it impacts your stress level. It is good to learn to do breathing exercises. I recommend the Dr. Andrew Weil 478 breathing. You can look him up on YouTube and do it right with him. And
Mhm.
I know it works because I have better blood pressure and pulse than anybody who goes to my functional doctor, because I'm driving in LA traffic doing his breathing exercise and I walk in calm as a cucumber. You have to learn to take care of yourself and not let it become toxic.
Mhm.
You need 7 continuous hours of sleep at night. That one still is a little bit of a struggle for me, but I'm working on it because it's as important as your stress level. And learning to breathe is as important as getting your sleep and removing your stress and your anxiety. So fix your relationships. You can sit down with the people and say, I know you love me. What we're doing to each other is causing me to be ill, and that's not good. So let's talk about it. Say the same thing to whoever's causing you the anxiety that you would say if he was a friend. You need to have the open conversation because your life depends on it.
Yeah. Yeah, you were in the when we were in break, you were talking about you did 3 podcasts on liver health.
Yeah, I have a great podcast that I recommend. Half of it I talk about health. The other half I'm interviewing other people who got sick like me, did the lifestyle changes and came out the other end. And it's called, just like my book, It Feels Good to Feel Good. But the second part is Future Proof Your Life. It's on voiceamerica.tv. And it's in 70 countries, so you can find it. It's an hour. And I am loving doing it because it's a great way. The local television station in my community is filming the solo shows for me because they wanted it to go on their local TV station. And so I then use that to go on to Voice America. But it's loaded with information, and your liver is so important. I really recommend you listen to my 3 Liver podcast. It sounds excessive because it's like 3.5 hours. But if your liver is working properly, your whole body works properly. That's where all the toxins that you've been putting in your body go. It filters them out. And if it starts to break down, number one, it gets fatty liver, which then is the number one cause of heart disease. But if it breaks down, it starts to store the toxins in your fat and your bones because it doesn't know what to do with them. It can't get rid of them all. So treat your liver with respect, and it will take you to great health.
So we are coming to a close here, but like I said, so many more questions. If we've got like 1 minute, what's the one most important thing you want people to know about healing?
I want you to own your own health. Your doctor is not what we called in retail. I was a store manager in retail. He is not the who said of the greatest magnitude. You are. You're the only person who knows how your body feels. So don't give away your power, and understand you have more power over your health than you believe. And if you start treating your body well, your body will start to celebrate, and it will tell you. Your body's very smart. I ask myself every morning, how do you feel today? And it talks to me. And if I did something yesterday that was a little off, I adjust right away because I am not giving up feeling good. So take back your power over your health and stop looking for the magic pill. You're the magic pill.
Amen to that. Food is medicine and medicine is food, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Cheryl Meyer, awesome goddess queen of eliminating toxins and getting your health back. So grateful to have you here today. Her website is CherylMHealthMuse.com. She's got so much great information over there. Please go over there and check out her books. You can get them both on Amazon. We all have a story to tell. We can live in the story or we can transform the story. It's your choice. But if you change your story, you can change our world. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to 3 Things I've Learned with Susan Dolci. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com for more inspiring stories of radical transformations, courageous breakthroughs, and life lessons. For more information on Susan and the stories that shift our souls, visit her at SusanDolci.com. That's SusanDolci.com, DOLCI. We'll see you next time.